I'm here to talk to you about 3 different types of thesis statements in the research argument essay. Looks like I need an extra space in here. I'll fix that later. Hard to tell. That's called kerning. You don't need to know that. What you do need to know, though, is that when you are building an argument, there are really 3 major ways you can build a thesis statement for it. And I'm here to review those with you. Again, this is not something that's not only helpful now, but will be in other classes that you take as well. Now, keep in mind, argument is something you may have to do in other classes. You may have to argue for one kind of technique over another, or one type of educational theory, or one type of lab protocol, or one type of diagnosis in the medical field. So knowing how you can do different kinds of arguments is really, really important. Let's go ahead and start right here. The first kind of a thesis statement is what we're going to call a claim of fact. And if you notice right here, it's a quantifiable argument. Quantify, we know the word quantity, right? It's about numbers. It's going to be about counting. It's going to be something of that source. Right, for those of you who know Spanish, right? ¿Cuánto cuesta? How much? So this kind of argument is going to be about numbered data for support. In other words, it's going to be about you just putting forward a certain group of numbers. And it's something that's measurable. It's going to answer questions like which is more, which is greater in number or proportion. So it could be about number of hours, number of dollars, number of hospital stays, anything that could be counted or measured. That's going to be something that is a quantifiable argument. Now, these tend to be a little bit hard to get a full argument essay out, but they often build on each other. So here's a claim of fact example thesis statement. Contrary to popular belief, sport utility vehicles cause more injuries and damage than sedans or station wagons. Now, what I want you to think about, you might even want to pause right here, is where do you see something that you can count or measure, something that's about numbers? What is a word or phrase in there? I'm going to pause for a second. You can go ahead and pause while you try to figure that out. Where's the part that lets you know you're counting or measuring? I just froze my face just in case you didn't want to freeze your actual video. Right here. More injuries and damage than sedans or station wagons. They do. They're bigger, they're higher up, they tend to roll over more because they have a higher center of gravity, and they cause more damage to other people when they hit them. Sometimes they go right over other cars. Okay, very good. Our second example, claim of value. Now that is a qualifiable argument. Now, this one's important too because qualify here means not like, in a sporting event. I qualified. I'm going to run in the big race. I'm going to play the big game. Not that kind of qualify. Qualify in terms of talking about the quality of something, the good or bad of something. In this argument, it's going to be something that's all about judgment and evaluation for support. Now, believe it or not, you've already done a lot of work on a thesis statement like this, and that's when you did your documentary evaluation. I know some of you are still finishing up. That's fine. Hit me up if you've got questions, if you want me to look at your drafts. Now, with a claim of value, once again, you're making a judgment or an evaluation, and we certainly got a lot of practice with that already. Sometimes it's about an ethical subject, and it could have words in it like we did with our documentary. We start with good or bad or positive or negative, as kind of like our placeholders. But if you wanted to make it something more ethical, it could be about responsible, irresponsible, um, economical, wasteful, healthy, unhealthy. A lot of those terms can have like an ethical right or wrong value to them, as opposed to just good or bad. When we're talking about movies, TV shows, music, works of art, a lot of times we're not talking about the ethical. We're not talking about if a movie is uh, necessarily ethical or unethical. Sometimes we do. If it's a very violent movie, could come up, right? Um, some people say horror movies are unethical. Some people say the Jeffrey Dahmer series is unethical. And, I think that's worth, talking about, listening to. I mean, portraying a serial killer, um, and some of the grisly deaths that he committed, um, against the wishes of the people who are family members of those who were victims of Jeffrey Dahmer, makes it worth a conversation, I would say. Um, I'm not going to go down that tangent too far, because we got other things we got to discuss. Finally, it's also going to answer the questions: how good is this? How bad is this? How responsible? How irresponsible? Um, how economical? How wasteful? How healthy? How unhealthy? Things like that. Coming up next is claim of value. This is our, oh, I'm sorry, here's our example thesis statement. Sport utility vehicles are not wise purchases because they cost more and are more dangerous than sedans or station wagons. Now, um, I want you to look in this example thesis statement for some words that are either have a positive or a negative charge to them. So somewhere where there's a judgment, this is good, this is bad. Go ahead and pause right here if you haven't found it yet. I just froze. But now I'm unfrozen. So, if you chose not wise, that is the correct answer. Once again, that's a judgment or an evaluation on whether people are making a wise choice when they buy SUVs. Regardless of how you feel about SUVs, this is just an example. Um, we can talk about this topic all day long. Finally, a claim of policy. Notice a claim of policy is something that suggests how to take a course of action. Now, what you will notice is they kind of build off of each other. If you look back at the claim of value, notice it's saying they're not wise purchases. You could just leave the thesis statement at there, but notice what it's being used as support. A claim of fact. They cost more and are more dangerous than sedans or station wagons. Next comes claim of policy, an argument about which course of action to take. It's about strategy, developing some kind of plan. It's basically saying there is a problem. Let's go ahead and build a solution for it. And we know the word policy a lot from like history or government classes or from the news, economic policy, uh, education policy, for example, is very much in the news right now. We all have policies in our own life too, might be like, some people be like, sorry, I don't date brunettes. That's my policy. That's kind of a weird, like superficial policy, but people have policies in their own personal lives too sometimes. Not that you're going to be writing about that, right? Remember, we're going to be writing about very specific issues that affect social groups that we belong to at some level. And if you haven't yet, make sure you watch um, the video for week number 12, the overview, because I talked about the research argument essay in that one. Okay. That'll give you an idea of what kind of topics are appropriate or not appropriate. Okay. Finally, it answers the questions: how do we effectively solve this certain problem? How should we build our strategy? In other words, we've got a problem. Let's find a way to lessen it, make it less harmful, maybe even make it go away for good. So here's our example thesis statement. Because they cost more and are more dangerous than sedans or station wagons, SUVs should cost more to register and insure. Some people aren't going to like that one. Again, it's an example. Now, what I'd like you to do is think about where there is the actual suggestion for an action or strategy to take. Pause it right here if you haven't found it yet. I was frozen again. Now I'm unfrozen. Okay. Here we go. If you selected should cost more to register and insure, that's the correct answer, because that's showing when some kind of course of action is going to be taken place. In fact, most claim of policy thesis statements have the word should in them, right? We all know the word should. Like, suppose, your parent comes and visits you in your room, or you're talking on the phone to them, and you hear them say, your dad and I were talking, and we really think that you should. As soon as you hear the word should, you start to bear down and get ready for the hit, because you realize they're going to have you take some kind of plan of action, maybe one that you don't want to take. So that's the big idea behind should. I'm going to go ahead and jump you guys to those actual examples that I gave on the research argument essay assignment page, just so you can get a good reminder of what could be good topics for you to explore for this essay. So I'm going to have to pause it right now, and then we will get there. And boom, here we are on the page. Notice here you've got all your due dates, including a thesis statement or a topic, a resource page coming up, formal sentence outline, rough draft, final draft. Remember, look at week 12, in order to have a better sense of my explanation for this essay. Looks like I'm not visible to you guys right now. I'm not sure why. Hopefully this is going okay. Notice here, now my aunt's texting me. All right. Here are some of the suggested topics. Now, all of these are really good ideas. Don't overthink it. I'm not expecting you to be the first and last word on the issue. What I am expecting is that you build a thesis that's arguable and you support your position using good, valid sources from Chaffey Library's database. And I will post a video there to help walk you through that. All right. It's really important. You got to do that. Here, I'm going to remind you, don't use Points of View Reference Center or Opposing Viewpoints Resource Center. Those are really not really great databases. Websites, especially not Wikipedia. If you've got a .gov that you'd like to use or a .edu, let me know. We can talk about it together. Here's some great topics for you: parental consent for birth control, pathways for dreamers, all these others. You can also build your own topic, but you really need to verify it through me before you go ahead. Let's talk through its feasibility. Avoid these topics. I go into greater detail on this in the week 12 overview. And that's all I got for that. That puts me up to time. I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.